All right, hey everybody. This is Trevor Dale, and this is for NOS and CTS class. I haven't done a lecture in a little while, so I want to put a little something together just to talk about. This is a little higher than what you're doing now, but I work in a global organization called Cerner, and they have a huge, expansive operation with a multitude of interconnections and interoperabilities across the world. And so I want to kind of show you what a large enterprise kind of looks like. One of the things that I'm actually doing right now is working with a large company that's one of my clients that's actually going to move its entire infrastructure from its local hosting environment to a remote hosting environment. Now, a lot of stuff goes into it. We have a huge project plan. The project plan is over 7,000 steps, just to kind of get an idea. If you ever run into project planning and do Gantt charts, it is typical for projects like this to be 6,000 or 7,000 different steps with a multitude of assigned resources and a large budget. This budget's about $500,000 just for the implementation and $5 million over 4 years for the actual implementation and support fees. So it's a big deal. And so with that kind of move, you have to lay everything out because they have a production environment of which they're actively using that needs to be migrated over to a new environment that they will be using. So there's a lot of things that go into that. So this is kind of like a very, very high level look at that company and what it would take to move everything around. So, pardon the camera angle, my head's going to be cut off, but you don't care about that anyway. So first you have the LAN, the local area networks. Those are the local offices. Now, this is only 3. The office I'm looking at actually has 20 offices in 22 different states in the United States. And so it's a big move. And so you have each office has its own LAN. A LAN is basically any network inside of a firewall. That's the best way to put it. There's a more, I'm sure there's a different explanation out there, but in the real world, that's a LAN. It is a network inside a firewall, a connection of nodes inside a firewall. And so these 3 offices connect to each other via a WAN, which is a wide area network, which is multiple firewall connections to local area networks. So all this is still considered to be technically internal traffic. So where you have access to printers, maybe an intranet site, local drives and resources via universal naming convention paths and things like that. Now a WAN, back in the old days, to have a WAN, you had to have a physical connection to that space. I remember when I was in San Diego, California, and we were moving to a new office, we needed to get an OC3 trunk line to go between our 2 locations in order for our 2 locations to be connected. And now, you just go over the internet. You just set up a TCP/IP path for a VPN. You be a Dish handshake, and you're sharing data. And the pipes these days are huge. Back then, OC3 I think was the equivalent of, I don't know how many T1 lines. T1 line was 1.5 megs. If you want to have some fun, go look up how much an OC3 is. I don't think it's even worth what a download is today for local internet. Anyway, so you have your WANs, you have your LANs, you have your WANs. Your WAN connects over the internet to a multitude of locations. And this is the big change. This organization has a separate data center. So hard drive space is very cheap. And it's cheaper to rent it than to buy it. So even though they have their own infrastructure, with which they have their own end user devices, it was cheaper to store their servers in a virtual data warehouse because these people do it all the time. They have, 100-acre buildings that are liquid cooled underneath the earth for prevention, and their data is safe. You just go rent out a couple of racks and then have a virtual environment, and you're up and running for only a couple $1,000s a month versus having your own infrastructure. Anyway, so they have a data center. Now their data center is not as cost effective as the data center that they're going to be moving to. So there's a little market comparison. The one that I have, the Cerner organization that I work for, we have a very comprehensive data center that is specifically set for healthcare patients and cost itemized for that specific type of work. So anyway, we have redundancies and a whole bunch of other stuff. So anyway, they have a data center, and for this example, we have 2 interfaces. Now interfaces is anything that connects from the outside to the inside in a seamless fashion. Now, interfaces is very different from interoperability. Interoperability is simply the ability to talk. Interfaces is the ability to speak the same language. So you're able to communicate effectively, and these interfaces can flow from wherever these are out in the world vendor one, vendor two, through the interface, through the internet, through the WAN, and then the deciding factors based on the packets that get sent via TCP/IP determines where they land. And most interfaces are bidirectional, so you got data flowing through here all the time. Now imagine that all of this stuff needs to be moved. All of it. Now, the fun part is that in technology today, most of the moves can be done simply by an IP or DNS redirect. DNS is domain name service, and if you have anything on the web, that's all you're looking for is the DNS pointing to a new location. Now you can get much more involved in that because you have MX records for email and ISPs and web services and IIS and all these other different things, but it all comes down to DNS and IP addresses. But the biggest thing is the end users. So the end users right now, they think they're just using this path. So if you need to move the data center, where everybody thinks everything is, this data center is going to physically change locations. And with the use of the internet, it is an IP address change, but you have to tell every single corresponding event where that IP address is, and that replication has to go out, and it has to happen in real time. There has to be a cutoff and go live date that are succinct with each other so that this organization doesn't experience downtime. That's the rub. That's the hard part, because these interfaces, they come to these spots here to interact with the users. The users plug in the data on their end, which gets stored in the data center. So you're starting to get a triangle effect. Now, a lot of these environments are virtual and have a lot of the virtuality as far as just being able to shift in thin air. But it's the connection between the end users and wherever this stuff is going to be that's the most hardest thing to do, to tell these users, these devices, where to point on day 2. Day 1 is the migration, day 2 is the implementation and the go live date. So anyway, I just wanted to do a quick little video about what a large scale version of this stuff actually looks like in a world that you're going to be going into, which is technology. You're starting out as you're going to be the help desk, the tier 1 support, but you may go into an organization that looks like this. And if you're doing a tier 1 support, you got to figure out what's wrong in all of these areas. An end user that's logging in to the data center from local office number 3 through the WAN, through the internet, can't receive interface information from interface 2. What are your troubleshooting steps for a scenario like that? And so those are the things you want to really start thinking about if you're going to have a career in this field. It's large scale ideas like that. The simple stuff is the simple stuff. You're going to have an end user that forgot their password. They can't log into the data center. So you reset their password, boom, fixed, new ticket, thank you for your time, great job. But, that's the routine stuff. What you're going to get paid for is figuring out what broke when nobody else can. In scenarios just like this, not during a move, but just during routine care. Just like a title, it's all around connectivity. Can't access a file that's in the data center from Office 2, but Office 3 can access it, no problem. So where is the problem here? Is with the WAN, is there a router down? Is there a configuration error? Is the DNS, the domain name server, down because it's not resolving the address to the name for the data center? And anyway, I can go on and on and on about scenarios in a picture like this. So long story short is when you're going through your assignments, when you're going through your material, you want to make sure you kind of step back and how could this affect me in my job and what I do on a day-to-day basis for the companies that I want to work for. It's also knowing scenarios like this is very handy during interviews. You can come up with scenarios for interviews because they'll ask you, give me a real life scenario of such and such and such and such. Or give me an example of where you applied critical thinking to scenario A. And if you can draw something like this out, even in the interview, people love that. Hey, can I borrow your whiteboard for a second? You walk up and you sketch out a connectivity map like this. All right, so you're saying that this user right here can't access here. Okay, well what I would do are these things. And that would that you get the job instantly. So anyway, that's it. I want to keep this down to about 10 minutes, as I just crossed that moment now. So anyway, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. As far as the courses are concerned, just a little note. You know, I know a lot of stuff has been going on with the course material, due dates and the like. And for that, I sincerely apologize. I don't have a good answer for everybody. I've tried to enable everything on the sites, so I have put out a blanket statement of just complete the assignments when you can. I won't give late deductions if you hand it in late, because we have some things that are on there that the due date was last year. This is for primarily the NOS class. The CTS class seems to be pretty well, though we never got the chapters that I wanted you to review for the book actually onto the site. So on the first post that I did, that's in the same post area as these videos, I put a list of chapters I really feel you should review. And, you know, go review them. They're only going to help you. May not be something you were actually tested on, but, you know, the book is yours and you really want to read those chapters. So anyway, that's it. Take care. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Happy Halloween.